Welcome to UFO Classified.
So my skeptical mind, and that's just who I am. My skeptical mind goes to, well, yeah, of course, you've got this guy over here that's logical and reasonable, and you got this guy over here that's wearing a tinfoil hat. Of course, the tinfoil hat guy's gonna see a lot of stuff, right? He's like imagining it, or he's watched one too many sci-fi movies.
But it can be used to help us frame hypotheses for UFO propulsion, power, stealth, weaponry.
Everything that we experience is very positive.
Sometimes the field of ufology has a short memory span.
We didn't know anything about the $22 million back then. We just kind of thought, well, this is, and I think that was the reason why they were looking for military-type people, because in the military, you work with whatever you got, no matter what the situation is, and you just kind of adapt and overcome.
Well, happy Friday, my friends. I'm Erica Lukes, and I just look forward to this moment in time every week. It gives me such a bright spot in my life. And there is no doubt, as you know, that I have not been incredibly busy this week and coming across a lot of wonderful finds that will enrich this field like you have no idea. I'm going to be making an announcement tonight on my website, ufoclassified.com. After several years of really, really looking into certain people and personalities and data, where the data is disappearing to, following the rabbit holes and making, like I said, dotting these connections and making sure I've got things backed up, I have something figured out, and I have a feeling that it will enlighten a lot of people and unfortunately shine a light in a direction where I am sure once again I will be attacked. But that is the nature of trying to make this field better, because this is why all of us are here. We don't have time to play games we don't want to be monkeyed around with. We have seen this enough time and time again with the Bigelow boys and their the Grand Master of Oz creating all of these little flying monkeys that go out and distract and take us away from really getting to the bottom of what's happening. And so, trust me, like I said, there's going to be a big bombshell this evening on my website. Make sure you spread the word, because I'm sure that a couple people might be needing to buy some stock in Depends. Let's just put it that way. On that note, I want to say just thank you for everybody getting into chat, people for following my show. I get comments from all over the world, and people that are actually in the mainstream journalism who've been contacting me and have been listening to every show, and I appreciate that, because that shows me that people understand the connections that I'm making, and they understand the importance of the guests that I'm bringing on the show. And I really, truly believe that there is not another show out there like mine that is dedicated to the truth. And I will not play I won't play games with people. I will do my best to research and present you with the facts. I will be wrong sometimes, but I've got a pretty good head on my shoulder, and I've made a lot of pretty startling discoveries, which will keep on coming. So if you can support the show, go to UFO Classified, become a Patreon. I appreciate all of you that contribute to the show. You help me with my research. You help me with archiving and creating a space here in Utah that is truly a one-of-a-kind. And I look forward to reading a document from the Ruffle files tonight that you're going to find incredibly exciting. And also, like I said, I've made a few discoveries in there. She did some pretty good work. I'm sure that makes people nervous. On that note, I am here with somebody that I respect a great deal, and someone that has been my friend and a colleague for a few years now. I appreciate the fact that Scott Browne, he has a Facebook group that is the most respectable Facebook group, in my opinion, on this subject. He and his administrators do a really tight job making sure that good information is put out there. It is a source of a place of knowledge where you can learn to identify things, whether they're mundane. You can learn new equipment. It's really important for all of us. And not only that, Scott is gracious enough to provide my beautiful graphics each week for the show. And he is a graphic artist and just he's incredible at what he does. And I want to thank him for supporting the show in that way. His interest has been, he began in 1987. That sounds about right for me, and maybe a little bit earlier. And it may or may not, his interest in 87 could have been connected to some incidents from his childhood. But he's an artist, he's a photographer, and he's done that for most of his life. He received a degree in digital imaging and photography, which afforded him the ability to analyze alleged UFO images and footage. In 2013, he launched my favorite group in the field to discuss and examine alleged images with like-minded individuals from around the world. In the intervening years, he has examined and scrutinized thousands of images and hundreds of hours of footage from every corner of the globe, and he is good. In 2019, he was featured in Diana Pasulka's best-selling book, American Cosmic. And it's just Scott, you're just a really freaking cool guy.
Well, thanks, Erica. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate it.
No, it's so much fun because I look at, there are very few people that I hold in high regard that are public in this field, and you have always been a shining light for me and for many others. And I hope that you know how important your work is, and I know it's not easy because you've been a target of attacks. We both have, by the same people, and it's a rough journey, but you have such great passion and dedication, and I admire that.
Well, thanks a lot. It comes with the territory. I mean, the things that we're both there because we both want the truth, and I don't want to be bullshitted. I want to see evidence, that shows this phenomena, that people can show me something solid. And I don't think, in my honest opinion, I don't think that we can rely on the government systems that have lied to us for years for those answers. I think that more people need to get out there with cameras and with equipment and, maybe try some different experiments to see what they can pick up. And, I think that's important. I think that, that should be something that, people should try to, the more eyes on the sky, the better. The more equipment on the sky, the better.
It's just fun. It's like
it really is.
I get
really
so wrapped up, in all of the research that I'm doing that I don't take time to go out there and get my telescope up and just enjoy the beauty that's around us. And then maybe if you see something that's great, but it really is a really good experience to get out there. It's fun.
Yeah. I actually want to take just a second to, thank all the people that, a short time ago, I put up a GoFundMe, got behind on some bills. As I had cancer and I was hospitalized for a while, got behind in the bills. And so a friend of mine convinced me to put up the GoFundMe, and I really didn't want to do it. I put it off for a while, and finally I said, you know what? My computer failed. My night vision camera was like real low resolution. I didn't really have the money to try to keep anything going. So thanks to a lot of generous people that pitched in, I was able to buy the new computer. And on top of that, I was able to purchase a Psionics color night vision camera, which I've just been playing with the last couple weeks, and it's absolutely incredible. It's such just an amazing little compact piece of technology. And, so tonight after the show, I'm going to head out, I think, take a trip down the road to a place we call the Brimfield State Forest, which has had a bunch of sightings over that area, over going back to the 60s. So I'm going to try to see what I can capture. And, it's been a while. It's been a while. Like, I have a bunch of videos up on YouTube, but I haven't been able to really do a lot of that work in the last couple of years. So I really want to get back to that. It's something that's how this all started for me. And I really, really want to get back to it. And I want to try to inspire more people in the group to pick up some equipment. And, it's meticulous. You got to take your time. You got to go through photographs if you're shooting them. You got to go through footage, and it takes a while to pull this stuff off. You've got to really, really take your time. And, it's hours. It's hours of your time.
It is, but like you said, it's just so rewarding. I have been fortunate enough, to travel to some very interesting and active locations, and it's just to have the right equipment and the right people around you and different things. It really makes a big difference, and it's fascinating what you can capture if you really get out there and do some work. It's not an easy thing, like you said, and it also, you can get out there night after night after night and not capture anything exciting, but it's still fun. You're still outside.
Yeah, and with this camera, I think I captured something the other night, but I haven't posted it yet because I'm still looking at it. But we use a lot of apps that are on our phone, or you can go online and I have an app on my phone where I can point the phone up at the sky. It'll tell me, the airline, how many people are on it, where it's going, where it came from. And so that helps you rule that out, that if it's an aircraft. And then you've got satellite trackers, which you can put on your cell phone, and you can track those and put in your zip code, and it'll tell you what's going to pass over you at what time. And it's good to use that to rule that out. Of course, there's some military stuff that's not really in there. So you got to kind of work around that. But there's a lot of tools you can use. And, if you're really into it and you want to take up I think the hardest part for me is going through the hours of footage and hundreds of photographs afterwards. That's the part that takes the most time. You've got to just go through them so slowly. You've got to run your footage in slow motion, because sometimes it's so fast you can't catch it with the eye. So you've got to really take a good look at it.
It's interesting, and you do, and it's like there's so many skills that and not to discourage anybody, because it's fun to learn all of these different things and learn about the different apps and learn about different programs on your computer where you can really analyze things and run through things, and it's like finding a needle in a haystack a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's been times where I've shot just hours of footage or hundreds of photographs and captured nothing. And all of a sudden, every so often, something will pop up and I can't identify it. And it's another thing that people want to do if they're going to do this is you've got to familiarize yourself with everything that's in the sky. No matter what it is, bird, bat, insect, lens flare, you name it, you've got to familiarize yourself with those things. And so if you do that, and you're aware of them all, everything that can possibly be up in that sky or in front of your camera, whatever is left over, those are the anomalies. Those are the things that are just an enigma. You don't know what it is, and no matter how you twist it and look at it, you can't make it be consistent with something that's mundane.
And so what types of things have you captured that have really just blown your mind?
One thing that I really love, one photograph that I took, which is actually in Diana's book. She printed the photo in the book. It was it's kind of like a disc-shaped object, but not really. It's got some round corners. So what happened was, I'm pretty sure it was October of 2013. So what I was doing was I was using a method of sky fishing. And so, excuse me, with a still camera, you set it up on the still camera, point it at a certain area in the sky, lock it in, and then rapid fire the button to shoot your photographs. And then you've got to, of course, go through them. You've got to zoom in on them. And out of this, I think it was 30 something, like 36, 37 photographs were shot in this one burst. And in the middle of it, I don't know, 20 something, like the 27th photo or 23rd, there was this object that I couldn't identify that was like, it just doesn't even make any sense looking at the photo. And of course, you had people saying that it was a balloon, which is absolutely ridiculous if you look at how the photographs were obtained. So if I'm rapid firing the button, if it was a balloon, it would have drifted by. So it would have shown up in a series of photographs.
Right.
6 or 7 or 8 to 10 as it passed over these trees. But obviously it didn't do that. And it showed up in one photograph. So, that ruled that out for me. Of course, if you think it's a balloon, it's the weirdest shaped balloon you've ever seen in your life. But, so, and then there's video footage. I've captured a couple things where, there's one on my YouTube channel where I did an experiment by flashing a mirror into the sky, which was something else that somebody else had. I can't remember his name. I think it was Jeremy Thomas had experimented by doing this, capturing the sun and flashing flashes into the just clear blue sky. And I had a mirror and I started fooling around with it on the porch. And all of a sudden, something flashed back at me out of the corner of my eye. So I thought I was seeing things. So I tried it 2 more times. So in a total, there was 3. And something in the sky where I was flashing the mirror, then setting the mirror down, was like flashing back at me. So I ran in the house, grabbed my camera, set it up, put the infrared filter on it, and sure enough, I flashed again, and it flashed back at me again. But then after that, I tried it maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10 more times, and there was no flashback. So it was very strange. And I think I'm going to try that again. I'm going to just fool around with that, see if I can try to bring something in. I mean,
that is cool.
It's if to me, I think that the phenomena is made up of like several different facets. I think it's, it could be several different things that are interacting with us. I don't think it's always the same thing. But I definitely, like we were talking earlier about forgotten people in the field of ufology.
Right.
And one of my biggest inspirations in the field was Dr. Harley Rutledge. And in the 70s, he wrote the book Project Identification. Took a team of the college students out there. He even brought his son with him. His son got involved with this. And they had equipment of that time, and 8mm cameras. He was trying to capture any data that he could, and this became the book Project Identification, and it just inspired me. I thought to myself, the equipment that we have today makes that stuff look like garbage. And so if we could get teams of people to go out and do that, but the downfall is, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say the downfall. The unique opportunity that he had was that there was a flap going on. And so he was able to go there and spend a long time capturing this, like what happened with Allison Cruz. She had the flap going on. She was able to capture all of those different anomalies. And, those unique opportunities like that are far and few between. And it's almost now where flaps either don't happen or people are not talking about them. You don't hear them very often where there's flaps like there used to be.
You're right about that. And I mean, maybe it's because we've just got too much stuff that's ours that's floating around now, so people don't even pay attention.
Yeah, that's a good assessment. I mean, there's so much stuff up there now that anytime someone sees something strange, they automatically, it's a drone. It's a drone, So, I mean, look at these incursions we've had. The one that just recently happened, they've been talking about it. Drones seen near, I think it's nuclear power plants. It was just in the news recently. The whole the big fiasco that just happened a little while ago, where they had fleets of drones. I can't remember exactly where it was, but they were never identified. People don't even know where they came from, who was doing it. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah, didn't that take place over a couple different states?
Yes. And it's just absolutely bizarre. So, I mean, exactly what you said is that there's so much out there now that people are going to get confused, and they're going to just call it something else and ignore it. And it could be something incredible, something that they wouldn't have never seen before.
Well, I think that, for me too, it's like, even though, the more I've learned about things, I mean, obviously my viewpoints have changed as I've educated myself, but it, even through that whole process, it's been very cool to learn, how certain things behave, how to look at, to understand transponder, data, to try to understand how things, all of these things, where military, testing places are, where, just to learn about the different technologies, to learn about astronomy, to learn about all of these things that, are not extraterrestrial in nature, but it's enriched me to learn about all of this. It's really a really cool process.
Yeah, I I look at it this way. I mean, over the years, because of in the field, and because I've had to go deep into certain areas to try to, like, I wasn't that educated on you remember the last time I was on your show was with Charles Lamoureux.
Wow, that was a while ago.
Yeah, so Charles taught me a lot about drones. And so I was very naive about them in the beginning, and then he began to open my eyes on that. And I went deep into the study of those, the different light configurations, and, the speeds and the height it can get to. And, so it kind of, in a way, has forced me to learn other things, because of the fact that, there's so much out there that you need to identify first. Like you see a sundog, which is a natural phenomena with the light and the moisture in the air, and it's kind of like a broken rainbow, or just different things that it has forced me to learn to understand them better, so I know, what I'm looking at.
And that's so important. I noticed that, in some social media groups and things, there are people that are, I mean, they're honestly, it's great that they're out there and they're looking and they're taking pictures and things. But I think a lot of times, when you're first starting out on your learning process, you see something that is, explainable, a flare, you've got some sort of, a bug, things like that, and it's like you think, oh my Lord, it's the mothership, and nope, not really coming together for you. But, do you see people that have these little videos and they're out in the middle of the field and they're seeing, I don't even know what, I don't know what, the tall white's coming down from on high. And you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, okay. But so, I'm not trying to be rude because I think it's an important process, but sometimes I just laugh because I've been there. I think we've all been there, maybe not to that extent, but what are some of the most common things that people, when they're taking a photograph, that they'll look at and say, like, oh, I've got, the mothership, or this is something anomalous, but it's actually really, really mundane?
I think the two biggest problems right now, not so much with video, but with photographs, it's lens flares, light reflections, and insects. And this is, I literally see dozens of these a week. Some of them are actually on so-called news sites, like, not to bash any of my British friends out there, but there's a lot of British websites that, constantly posting this stuff. There was a little girl just captured a UFO the other night, and it's just a lens flare.
Bummer. She's
pointing it into a tall parking lot light, so of course it's causing a reflection in another part of the sky. But those are the most common. Video-wise, a lot of times it's distorted. So let me give you an example. So if I'm shooting so-called orbs, and I'm not saying all orbs are this, but the majority of orbs are out of focus. It's moisture in the air or dust particles. And I did my own experiments years ago with a 35 millimeter camera by taking a mist bottle and filling it with water, and then I was shooting it at night, and so I would do it different distances from the camera, and then as I got closer, bingo, orbs, because it's moisture caught in the air. A lot of people will catch natural things and then think it's something paranormal. I mean, I'm not going to mention any names, but there's some pretty well-known researchers that will post this stuff, and say it's some kind of paranormal, and it's absolutely nothing. It's just not what they think it is.
It's
You still there?
Yeah. Actually, I learned how to unmute my mic, and I'm so proud of myself. And I did it like within, 5 seconds. This is the seventh sign of the apocalypse here tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, it is interesting how people, post stuff. I think sometimes people just want so desperately to believe that it's like they go down these, and we all, do. I mean, gosh, it would be, I wish I still had the same belief systems that I had 5 years ago, because life would be a lot easier. But, but it's, unfortunately, it's, reality hits you in the face. But there are some really fantastic things. And have you ever, have you ever heard of Stella Lansing?
Do you want to hear something really strange?
I do. I live for that kind of stuff.
She was a friend of mine.
No way.
Yeah, she lived and died about 2 miles from here.
Okay, wow, the hair on my arms just stood up.
Yeah, so I found out about her, of course, because of the sightings episode, if you remember. It's still online. You can watch it on YouTube. And when we found out that this woman in Palmer, where I live, was taking these photographs, and so I didn't know her at the time. I knew her years later. I got up the guts one day to give her a call. I found her number, and I talked to her about a half a dozen times, and she actually took that footage and those photographs, like I said, just a couple miles from my home. Here's the sad part about her whole case. She passed away a few years ago, and what happened was the house, for some reason, was abandoned. No one bought it, and it just sat there for a while. Well, I found out that people had moved in and bought it, and all of her footage and her photographs and everything was left in the garage. And so I tried to get a hold of it. I knew somebody that knew the guy that bought the property, and I kept sending him messages, and he wouldn't answer me. And, I don't know what happened to it. But like I said, she was documenting that stuff just a couple miles from here. And it's an area, like I said, right near the Brimfield State Forest, just a few miles from me, where there's been a bunch of sightings. Warren, Mass., which is the town over, whole bunch of weird stuff has happened. It's been documented. There was some strange cases documented all the way back to the 60s in this area. So,
And are there any military installations close by?
We have Westover Air Force Base in Chicopee, which is about probably 20 minutes from here.
Okay.
So, but Stella was a very nice woman. She, had no idea what she was capturing. She just, like the story goes, she was passing by this local park ball field that we have where a lot of the grammar school kids play baseball, and she was passing by there. I apparently one night and had saw something, and I guess later on down the road she asked a friend if she could borrow their 35 millimeter camera, film camera, and she began to capture this, just some really bizarre stuff. I mean, I've looked at it and I don't know what she was capturing, but it was incredible stuff.
And I mean, she was such an interesting lady, and that breaks your heart that all of her stuff was sitting in her garage, and we don't know where it ended up, which is just unfortunately par for the course with a lot of this stuff. Or we do know where it ends up, and then you've got people that are the gatekeepers of the data that won't let you see it. But that's too bad. But I actually did come across some things with regard to Stella in my archive, the And Ruffle archive.
Really?
I did. And so I will get that to you, and you can have a look at that and let me know what you think.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
Isn't that cool? I'm so glad that I just brought that up.
It's so strange that you did, because Stella was not very well known. She was known to a few locals. She got a little bit of fame when they did the sightings episode. And she was actually mentioned in a book. I can't remember right now. I think it's called UFO Dynamics. And I think his name was Dr. Schwartz.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I can't remember, but he did that. I think there's a chapter or two in the book that's about Stella. And,
yes, he worked with her, actually. So yeah, he, I think, spent a great deal of time with her and analyzing her photos and doing different things, and so he was an interesting person in and of himself. So there's lots to talk about. I'll be excited to get
Yeah.
those to you, because it's amazing. And like you said, it's a small group of people out there, and people like Stella are this close to being forgotten. And that would be really, really unfortunate. And it's important that you do what you do in talking about Harley Rutledge and Project Identification and some of the great people in the past who've really objectively tried to look at the phenomenon and get answers, which is something that I don't see anybody necessarily doing today. Instead we're jumping at the bright shiny object, and we're champing at the bit about disclosure, which is I don't know, and it's a huge distraction, and it's like, gosh, get out there, get your camera, go to work, go do something, get an archive, I don't know, it's just there's so much to do, and if you waste your time following some of these people and groups, then good luck to you. Have fun with that one.
And let me just say that, people who know me and they know me online, and different things, they've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. Disclosure is a myth. And they, you have this whole new crop of people who've come into the field, and they're
unfortunately, or just kidding. I just had to say that. That was my inside voice that went out loud.
It happens sometimes, and they, they're so adamant that this disclosure is going to happen, and some of them have, told me that I'm super cynical and, I'm negative about the field and what's going on and what they're accomplishing, and back to the 3 blurry pieces of footage that are less than a minute long. I mean, this stuff is not, if the government's been looking at this, which I believe has been nonstop for decades, it's never stopped. It's always been there. They've always looked at it. They've got way better visual images of this phenomenon than we know about. But the thing is they're not going to see them. We're not going to see those. So, my advice to people is go out there and try to get it yourself.
Exactly.
Go out there and document and write it down and film it, and
don't submit it to MUFON.
Exactly. And it's like somebody like you saw my tribute I did a couple months ago to Ted Phillips. I did a tribute on YouTube to him, and he had passed away, and he was one of my idols. He would go out there and gather the data and the evidence, and he documented some incredible things. And another guy in the field I mean, he was in the middle of the road, well known, but and I mean, the guy grew up next to Hynek, working with Hynek, and he was another one of my idols. He, very meticulous, stayed grounded, did not say, this is an alien from Andromeda that landed
here.
What?
Are you kidding? That is so disappointing.
And those type of things are, as soon as a researcher starts with that type of talk, I'm done. I'm out.
Well, it is kind of comical, you got to admit. Just, if you ever need a laugh, you just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that. There's people that are, they get a belief in their head, and that's it. They're going with it. It's nothing else matters. It's they believe that it's this, and and not to criticize. Like, I'll bring up somebody else that maybe I won't mention the name, but there's a case now where it's been documented, and this person whose experiences experiencing these, encounters, whatever they are attributing them to some type of religious, uh, you know, connection. That it's angelic beings, and it's this person's interpretation of something that they cannot explain, that is so out there, that they're looking at it going, you know what, this is the explanation that I'm going to have for this, because I can't cope with this. I don't know what it is, so I'm just going to, and that's why you have so many different interpretations of the phenomena, is that it depends on the person, you know.
And that's, it's true. And I think there's so many factors that go into play. And as I go back, and I'm really lucky that I have this beautiful archive that I've worked on for half a decade, but I can go back and I can look at the history, and I've mentioned this on multiple shows. It's been very strange to me to see how different political and religious factions have inserted themselves into the UFO narrative to try to steer it. And it's like, it's sad to me that you have an experience like I've had an experience. I've had many experiences in my life that I think are unusual. And the second, you try to go outside of yourself and to look for other people for answers or for meaning, that's when you get in trouble. And I think that really takes your personal power away from you. If you're, it's like, I think back to some of the conferences I've gone to, and waking up in the morning and going by a group of people who are doing this group hypnosis, and they're talking about the fact that they're all starseeds and chosen people who are, here to save the planet and different things. And I'm going, okay. I mean, now that I look back at it, back then I was like, okay, this is, all right. But now that I look back at it, I think, oh my God, this is dangerous. It is, B, it is absolutely a ripe place for any type of, intelligence operative to get in there and manipulate, to test things out, to try to, it's just, we have to be more diligent than that. And we have to kind of, I would definitely advise not sharing a lot of information about stuff like that. It's good to have a group of friends, I think, and close people that you trust. But we saw what happened with the MUFON database. And we saw the fact that everything in there for a long time has been bought and sold. And that the government has that information, personal, private information, that other people that have the IQ of a pea pod have that information. And, it's like, so God, we've got to be a little bit more careful, I think. And we have to understand that it is, we have to step back and maybe not jump on the bandwagon that it is, Angel Moroni coming down to steer the people to the chosen land. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, you know what I mean? I just think that we have to exercise a little bit of caution. And that's why I say, for me, I am keeping my experiences. I don't want anybody else to influence what I experienced. And I think that can happen very easily in this field.
Yeah, I was actually offered, well, I guess go back to the beginning. So, in the beginning, you had mentioned that my interest in 87, which I cannot really say if it was tied to it again. I won't go into the whole thing again, but I, as a child, disappeared from our home. I was small, 4 or 5 years old, and I disappeared from our home on a few occasions. And my mother was so freaked out. She wrote about it in her diary, and they couldn't understand how I got out of the house because there was a deadbolt and the door was still locked from the inside. So I ended up, approximately a mile down the road, mile and a half. Um, my father was a police officer. Anyways, long story short, can't really connect that. Can't say that it's connected. Don't know. Um, but as I began to tell this story, um, Dr. David Jacobs, he's written a bunch of books. He's, kind of, some of his views are they're a little out there. That the aliens are taking over the earth and all these crazy things. So he wrote me an email and he wanted to put me under. And I really didn't want to do that because
Good thinking. Good job going with your gut there.
yeah, because I mean, if there's anything there, I don't want it to be like twisted and, turned into something else by somebody else. I would rather just leave it. I don't know if anything happened to me. But, the mind is easily moldable, especially when you're, in that state, in a state of hypnosis. And, I mean, there can be damage done. But I mean, I'm not looking for, somebody to feed my head with, images that shouldn't be there. I mean, like I said, don't know if anything happened. Will I ever go under hypnosis? Probably not, so.
You know what? And I think the more I learn, I think that is really the way to be. I think that's really smart because I think as I've dug into things, it has been shocking to me that Bigelow has funded so much, especially with regard to abduction research. And then I look at the aspects of the non-lethal weapons testing and the things that we were testing even back in the late 50s through today, and just think, nope. I find it very odd that some of these people have been involved in all of this and are also, they have people in the intelligence community that are their advisors and things. That's concerning.
Yeah, I think that, the most amazing thing to me is how people find it that hard to believe that the American government would try to expose someone to something, because they've been doing that for decades. I mean, they've had, the studies that they did where they exposed people to different diseases without them knowing it. And just all of the ugly things that have been done by the people in power. These are the people that these other people think that they're going to get disclosure from.
Yeah, thank you.
Which just boggles my mind, because these people are not, they're not there for you, that they're going to give you answers to whatever that is, because if that can be exploited in any type of way, they're going to do it, and they're not going to tell you about it. And it's just common sense. But people are still clinging to this idea that the government's going to come out and say, we have alien bodies and we have crashed UFOs. That is not going to happen.
No, it won't. And I mean, like I said, the more I look into this, the more I see the people who were, back involved with NICAP, who were in the intelligence community, who this person was friends with this person, and then all of a sudden this person is coming up with crash retrieval stuff, and so you can very plainly go back and paint a narrative of the intelligence community inserting this story here, and then watching the little rats scurry and try to get, on top of that, because they think they're getting these golden nuggets when it's all just leading them down a different trajectory. And I think that we see, we've seen very clear examples of that with, Bob Lazar, with Area 51, with Skinwalker Ranch and things like that. Those are all red herrings and I think dangerous ones at that. And so people just need to be mindful. And then, like you bring up a really incredible and important point. It's like we're looking and we expect disclosure from this group of people who have been there for a long, long time, and who have a vested interest in making money from technology, who are working on non-lethal weapons technology, and many other things. So their motivation is money, and their motivation is steering the narrative. And these people they don't care about you, they don't care about me, they don't care about disclosure, because this is the same song and dance that has been rolled out decade after decade. It's just that we keep finding younger generations that buy into it, and it's just at some point in time we need to wake up and understand what's happening, and that's not in our best interest.
Absolutely. And I think that some of the deep mythology that's embedded in the UFO community is, I believe some of that, maybe the majority of it, was fed into the UFO community, and it's on purpose. It's what they do. And they want to, like you said, steer the narrative, or cause confusion, or cause people to argue. And it's all these tools that they use. They don't want you to be looking at this and getting any closer to it. They want to keep it for themselves. And so I honestly believe that they have got an archive out there somewhere that's got just footage and photographs and documents that would just blow people's mind. And I think they've been collecting it for decades, and they know more about it than I do. But in all honesty, I think that it's beyond them as well, that they're still grabbing at it, that they're still trying to, it's like one researcher said. He said, for somebody to say that we're going to back engineer a UFO is like if you brought your cell phone back to Ben Franklin and said, could you back engineer this for me and build me another one of these? And yep. and that's on a small scale. I mean, if you've got something that is so advanced that it can do these incredible things that people have seen and filmed, then we're not going to just pick one of those up and get behind the controls and start flying it around, or break a chunk of it off and figure out what it is. So I have it on good word that some of the metal samples that they've been testing, that these metal samples are kept in a vault or locked somewhere. And every few years they pull them out to try to do more tests on them because they can't figure it out. And once they can't gain anything or get any closer to what it's about, they take it and they lock it back up again. And they wait again and they take it back out again. Whether that be fragments or, some kind of technology. But I have it from a good source that is happening every few years on a constant basis. And they're still completely confused by it.
I wonder if Bigelow's involved in that. Just kidding. I don't know. Judging by his use of duct tape and props at Bigelow Aerospace, I'm not sure that they could pull that off, but I could be wrong.
No, it's just not something that that they're going to reveal. I mean, if they broke ground tomorrow and figured something out about this phenomena or about some of the materials that came from the phenomena, 10 years from now, they're still not going to be telling you what it's about, what it's composed of, what it can do. They're going to use it for their own gain, and that's what they're going to do. And people have to understand that.
Absolutely. And I think that it is, it's funny to see the people that the powers that be, whoever have kind of rolled out there for the public, that have been these, spokespeople for, these award-winning journalists and things that are giving these stories from, and with anonymous sources, and then they're basically just doing marketing for a certain aerospace company, that whatever. But you look at the myth makers, the bullshit artists, excuse my language, and you just think, seriously, this is why aren't people standing up and just saying, wait a minute, okay, here you've got Bob Lazar, here you've got the fact that, oh, look, he was involved in this murder investigation, he was involved in, A, B, C, and D, here are the facts that could be laid out. I mean, it can't be laid out any clearer, but yet people are still like, I believe, blah, blah, blah. But there's such this big circus and promotion machine that is behind it. And that has to be driven by not only people that are just greedy and want to make money and get a, spot at the next lecture and see themselves walking up a hill and turning around and thumbing through files for 20 minutes on their documentary. And you think, it's just like, holy crap. I don't know. The whole thing is it's strange to me. And I think that the one reason I've always really respected you is because you see through this, you get it, you understand that there is something genuine, and you want to empower people to go out there and discover it on your own. And that is a really, really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think that, a grassroots thing would, let's say I had somebody stationed throughout the world, and there's a few groups that are trying to do this now. There's a friend of mine, he's actually in the field, and I'm also connected with him on Twitter. And they're part of a bunch of guys who are trying to get into people's hands this whole thing called SkyHub, and it's software that's going to be involved with these cameras, that's going to be able to, I believe, tell the difference between mundane things and something that's out of character for what we're looking at. So the software can, and don't quote me because I'm not exact. I've read some on it. The software, of course, will pick up, movements, characteristics, speed, different, light sources, maybe a light source coming off of the object, and be able to tell within the software that, okay, well, this is the sun reflecting off of a bird, and so there's people out there trying to develop that stuff. And I'm behind those guys 100%. I mean, if they can make that work, that would be incredible,
That would be, and I want to just say too, that would be really incredible, and we'll have to get them on the show, get all of you guys on the show. But one thing that I have to just raise a little concern about, and people need to be cautious about, is the fact that sometimes, when you've got stuff like this and you're involving multiple people, you don't know who is actually engineering this, and you don't know where the data is going. And we've seen this with certain things that have ended up in the hands of To the Stars Academy and MUFON, and I think that isn't in the best interest. So I think it would be good to get kind of to make sure everybody knows who they're dealing with, and things are very, very transparent.
Yeah.
But that. I know I'm not just throwing that out there. But I mean, like I said, you're on top of it.
Yeah, my belief is that if there's anything captured, that's why I don't go under a pseudonym online. I go under my own name, because I think that's just not, if you're going to get involved in this field, you have to be transparent. You can't be, you're hiding behind a fake name online. You're shooting footage, and you're, creating fake stuff and uploading it, or, just, you got to tell the truth. I mean, if we're going to get anywhere, we've got to clear away all the bullshit and all the people that are just either trying to make a buck or confuse the community, or just, things like this. We just got to clear that all away. And we've got to start over again and clear out all the mythology. And there's so much in the UFO community that is just pure mythology. I mean, there's people out there that are still posting Billy Meyer videos.
Lord.
And there's still a huge group of people that stand behind him and believe that he's honest to the core, when there is so many people out there that are just there to rip off the UFO community. It's what they're there for,
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing that is just so... it's just sad. And I think, you and I, we've always spoken out about this. And as a result, we've come under fire from different trolls who are probably bought and paid for by the people we're talking about, and things like that.
Yes,
and it's just, oh my gosh, we need to talk a little bit about that after we get back from the break, because that's an important thing. But yeah, we do need transparency, and we do need people that are willing to stand up. And when somebody isn't using their real name, one must wonder what the agenda is, because most people, and there are very incredible people who are in the scientific community that would not use a pseudonym. They use their real name. And needless to say, like I said, if you go to my website later this evening, you might find a little bombshell that will make all of you think, and maybe ask yourself where your data is going. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. UFOclassified.com. Check it out later tonight. Before we go to break, and I know it's a little past 6, I'm going to read this letter for everybody, because I found this in the Ann Ruffle files, and this just was really, really interesting for me. It's dated April 30th, 1977. It's a letter to Anne, and it says, as you know, I've been actively involved with the collection and analysis of UFO eyewitness reports for some time, from the standpoint of the perceptual and psychological responses evoked by this strange and sometimes subjectively threatening stimuli. Of course, central concern to me has been the development of techniques to help make an eyewitness report more reliable and faithfully represent the origin sensory event as possible. My reason for writing you now is out of great concern for a coming event that may possibly contaminate our efforts to obtain as unbiased sighting data as possible. By now you're probably aware of the planned public release of a movie entitled Close Encounters of the Third Kind, CE3, sometime around Christmas of 1977. Our mutual concern for obtaining as objective data as possible should then motivate us all to work together to be prepared for the possible influence of this movie upon the American public and their later reporting of CE3, perhaps similar types of experiences as well. Our actions will now lead to greater understanding of the influence of how mass media presentations influences our data. Outlined below are some suggestions on how we should deal with this potentially biasing media event. I hope that once you have thought out the various consequences of not taking any particular action now, you will see the merit in these suggestions. Action 1, you and your UFO organization to take action to contact the managers of all local theaters who plan to show this movie in attendance figures and starting and final showing dates for each theater and each showing of this movie. These data may be correlated later as necessary with the frequency of CE3 type reports in your area. Action 2, you and your members should see this movie to become familiar with its details as possible. Such intimate familiarity will make your subsequent eyewitness interviews more sensitively aware of similarities and differences between the reported CE3 encounter and the movie. Perhaps you may want to obtain a copy of the script from its producer for your files. Action 3. You should plan to issue an alert to your membership as soon as possible, at least by mid-October 1977, pointing out that this coming event and how it could affect their investigations. In this regard, I would urge you to ask them, what can you think of that is anything like close encounters you've just had? Under no circumstances should the investigator mention the name of the movie, its contents, until the interview is almost over. Always let the eyewitness raise the issue. Only at the end of the interview should the question be asked, have you ever seen the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind? The reasons for these procedures should be self-evident. I hope that a few of my suggestions will be of help to you and also benefit those who strive to obtain truly useful data. From Richard Haynes, PhD, research scientist and consultant, from 1977. So anyway, I came across this little gem last night in the archives, and I just sat back and thought, wow, this is really cool, and I wanted to share that with you. So the media influence and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, we know Dr. Jacques Vallée was in a little cameo in that movie. In fact, Chris and I are going to watch it later tonight and just see what other interesting tidbits I can find out as I watch that movie for the millionth time. But anyway, on that note, Scott, we're going to go to a break. I'm sorry it's a little bit later than usual, and I appreciate you being in here, and I want to just give a shout out to all the admins at In the Field. All of you guys are my friends and supporters, and I support you, and I really appreciate such an incredible community, Scott, that you have created over the years, and there's a lot of integrity there, so thank you. We're going to take a break, and on our break, I'm going to play part 3 from an interview of Dick Hall that Anne Ruffle did way back when, and this was in relation to her book Firestorm about James McDonald, but lots of other topics came up, and so here you have part 3 of the Richard Hall interview. We will take a break and be back in a little under 5 minutes, so check it out.
About the CIA, do you suspect that the CIA caused the NICAP breakup?
I addressed the CIA issue head on in my article. I'll send you a copy of it. That'll save time.
Oh, fine.
My paper for the MUFON conference, and I'll go through it. There were various CIA people at various stages of NICAP that did various things. And there's only about one of them that can be interpreted as maybe a negative influence, and that turned out to be Colonel Browne, who in fact, it turns out, was not an Air Force colonel. He was a naval officer, and the Air Force Reserve colonelcy was we learned belatedly, was a cover story for the CIA, and that Browne was involved in even establishing, as I understand it, the Air Force counterintelligence. What am I trying to think of? Air Force. I can't think of the right word. It has to do with disinformation. Anyway, he was involved in some spook-type things that we found out after the fact. So he's the one guy but he was not closely involved in the day-to-day operations of NICAP and had little influence on it. So again, I say, so what?
Was he not
obviously
chairman?
There were CIA people sniffing around the edges constantly from the beginning till the end. Now, directly to your question, did they have anything to do with the demise of it? I suspect they might have, because there were various people showing up, and NICAP did go to the guy named Alan Hall, who was a CIA operative, no relation, never heard of him until this time.
Okay.
Even that's interesting that they come up with somebody with my same last name.
Well, yeah.
But, I suspect they may have very well have had something to do with it, but I think the best way to treat that is to go ahead and send you a copy of my paper. It'll give you some good background reference material.
Okay. Thank you. Now, so that takes care of that. About the Condon Committee, how did Kehoe first get the trick memo? Do you know?
I think he got it from Jim McDonald.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure he got it from Jim McDonald. Or maybe, well, I don't think Dave Saunders would have given it to him. It was either McDonald or maybe Fuller, I don't know, when they were all jointly working on that Look article. But I'm pretty sure it was McDonald.
The way
I learned about it before Kehoe did.
You got to look at it before Kehoe did.
I knew. I was shown it when I first went out to the Colorado Project. The second time I went in January of '67. I was shown it by Jim Wadsworth, one of the junior members, pulled me aside and showed it to me, and I looked at it and read it in the context of everybody happy, talking and drinking in a motel room. And I read it through, and I said, well, he sounds pretty skeptical. We'll have to change his mind, and something like that, and brushing it off, because
Oh, you brushed it off.
I brushed it off because I said, well, he sounds like a skeptic, but, we'll bring him around, kind of thing. I underestimated it, obviously, but that was my initial reaction to it, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
So Kehoe didn't learn about it until later, because I don't think I even mentioned it. I didn't think it was anything that important at the time, because we were abusing it anyway. We were, Major Kehoe and I drank a toast to the Air Force while we're flying out to Colorado. Here's a toast to the enemy, we said, and we drank a toast to him.
Oh, did Kehoe go out with you on that trip?
Sure. In November '66, we went out together and addressed them.
Oh, that was the first one.
That was the first one.
Yes, but you didn't see the trick memo till January '67.
Right.
And
at that time, as I say, I sort of brushed it off, as I didn't understand its significance.
So there you have it. Unfortunately, the third part was not playing, so I played the second part again, but I will get that fixed in edit tonight and things. It is, like I said, the and ruffle archive is simply amazing, and the gems that I am finding day after day, you wouldn't even believe. It's off the chart, and I really think it is important, again, to stress the importance of making sure that information is going into a place where it can be utilized by a younger generation. It will be put forward, and instead of being swept up by the Bizzle Boys, it will go to a place where people can learn from it, like I'm learning from the wonderful archives that have been sent to me by not only Ann Ruffle's family, but by many other people who have graciously donated their archives to me. Rich Vitello, Keith Chester sent me just some wonderful things. He's the guy that got it rolling a few years back for me, but these are things that I will be learning from and will share with you, with the public, and move things forward. Mark my words, there is a very large effort underway that is stronger than ever, that is funded by the same players that we've seen for the past 2 decades, and their goal is to sweep up information and to make sure that it does not get out, and it is guarded by a few of the gatekeepers in the field who have they're getting funding. Where is this funding coming from? Who are these anonymous people that have popped up to sweep up data that we just keep handing over because we think that they're this wonderful iconic figure? Well, guess what? It's all going to the same place. Guess what? When you start doing some digging, you're going to find interesting connections with Jim Semivan and Larry Frashella and some of these people who are donating to archives. And I'm telling you, people, it's not in our best interest. So like I said, UFO Classified, be there later tonight.com. You're going to see my latest bombshell, and it's a doozy. And I will get your opinions, which I need about this. And we will see where it goes. But like I said, I have no doubt that once again, I will be in the line of fire. But I don't know what to say. It's been the same group constantly. So I'm telling you, it's a good thing, that we're learning to roll with it, because like I was mentioning in the earlier section, I mean, you and I have both been the target of some pretty pretty nasty trolls. And so again, Scott Browne is back with me in the field. He's amazing. He does my beautiful graphics. But I mean, Scott, tell us a little bit about some of the experiences that you've had with trolls.
Which was just astounding.
You know, and I want to just say that, and I'm sorry, thanks guys for alerting me that again, Mama needs a producer sitting next to me. But you know, we were attacked by both together, like you were mentioning, by a certain person that just dropped out of nowhere. Again, it's here you've got somebody who's poof, you know, here's the 2007 revelation, and then we've got, oh, look over here, we've got this brand new show with a person that is using a pseudonym, who nobody can find out any information on, who is very strategically attacking specific people, and then holding, you know, up in high regard other people, and a person who is making who is doing some things, making oh God, you know what I mean. But keep on talking about what you experienced with regard to that.
Well, I mean, that's something in a long line of people who've come at me. I've had death threats. I've had just all kinds of just every kind of insult you can imagine hurled at me, private messages, emails. One guy was sending me the voice clips in the private message on Facebook, tearing me apart. And, I mean, it goes on and on and on. The problem is that, I try to take an easier approach these days, and try to maybe help somebody get educated about, what something actually is in an image, or in a video. And, people don't like to have their beliefs challenged. They don't like it at all. If they're locked onto something, and they think that, you know what, damn it, that is the exact answer. That is what that is, and you challenge that. Well, a lot of people get disturbed by that. They don't like it. I had to learn the hard way. I had to go through the Billy Meyers and the, George Adamskis and go through all of this stuff, which is what I call the mythology of ufology. There's so much of it that is complete nonsense. And there's still people to this day that will defend those things, even though the evidence is on the table. It is free and just completely open for anybody to see. And, it's hard sometimes because people, when they get locked onto something, they'll do anything to keep those beliefs. They will not let them go. No matter how much you throw the facts at them or show them the evidence that, look, this guy's building UFOs out of garbage can covers and then photographing it. And, here's the proof. I can show you that's what it is. And no, they're not having it. So, I mean...
Well, would you have people on TV that are, supposedly aerospace engineers or whatever they are, and they're using coffee cans and yarn to triangulate an object? I think, God, I mean, why not? Let's toss up Grandma Moses's hubcap and take some pictures tonight. That sounds fun. I'm going to grab a coffee can and my yarn, and we're going to go to work.
Well, there's a lot of it, and people in this modern age, like I've said in a couple other interviews, is that, the CGI is getting really advanced, and eventually it's going to be very tough to tell. So what is being developed, and I've seen examples of it where it's software, which you would pass the footage through this software, and the software will analyze the video and show where it's been altered. And so, they're coming up with counter software to go up against the CGI artists, and that's one of the reasons why I think I wanted to form in the field, was that I wanted to have people who are honest, who are going out there every week and trying to capture things. And, I met some great people. I mean, there's not a lot of people doing it now, but, and by the way, I just want to give a shout out to, now I've had other co-administrators in the field, and a few of them have left. One of them early on, he was, kind of began to disagree about the direction that I wanted to go in, and so he left. And we're on friendly terms. Then I had another friend from Canada who you're familiar with, Will Smith. And Will, stepped down. He wanted to take some time away. He's kind of been, just having his own time to himself. The only administrator I have left is none other than Northern UFOs.
He's such an overachiever.
And let me tell you what.
And he's like the bomb.
That guy has supported me from the beginning, and he has been an incredible friend to me. And, I'm going to try to get together with him pretty soon, because I'd like to either Skype with him, or, at least have some conversations on the phone. He's a great guy, and, he's a good friend of both of ours.
Yes,
and
he is.
He's, there's just some people out there in the community, you meet them and they're just great people, and then you've got people that are, they're in it for their own,
Right.
So you got to kind of be careful. I mean, I guess it's like that with any community. I think the UFO community a lot reminds me of kind of a religious sect. So you'd have, you've got your people that come along that convince people that they're closer to God and they can give you the answers. And, then you've got your people that are just, diehard believers. They'll believe anything that comes out of these new messiah's mouth. And it's the same way. I mean, it works the same way in the UFO community. There are people that have come along, and this new generation of some of these people, I guess ufologists, who hang on these people's every word and every move. And you and I have been around long enough to know that we've seen this all before. We've seen these people come down the road, with their snake oil cart selling their products, and we've seen it. And I've seen it before. And don't get me wrong, I am 100% behind anybody who's trying to get at the truth. But been doing it so long that I know that no matter what you do, they're not going to tell you the truth. They're just not going to do it. And so
Yep.
it's frustrating. I mean, some people, they're so angered by the frustration that they just want to know. I've got to know now. They've got to give me disclosure. But the bottom line is they've been talking about disclosure for decades.
Yes.
And we're no closer to an answer.
No, we're further away than we could ever imagine.
And I mean, it's just I think it's every generation comes along, and there's people that really get into it, and they they think they're going to get somewhere, and it just doesn't happen.
And it's interesting, and thank you for saying that. And I know that it doesn't rub people the right way to know that, that disclosure is not happening. I hate to tell you that. And I mean, like I said, I don't want disclosure from our government at this point, because so far we're not getting a lot of truth from anybody. And I don't need disclosure from anybody to understand that there's something going on. And so I run screaming into the night, thinking about somebody like perhaps maybe like Tom DeLonge or Luis Elizondo, talking about, about this and oh, it's a threat, or hey, there's maybe a demonic thing, and then you've got all these other narratives that are being inserted in there that are really dangerous. And I think that we just have to be open-minded and step back. And it is interesting to see new people coming into this. And I will say, I new people need to come into this. We need to get new blood. We need to carry on the work that all of us are doing, and that's so important. And we need to foster them and empower them, and find people that have integrity to do just that. And when you see, though, and some other people that have inserted themselves, that literally dropped on the planet after the New York Times article to create a big faction or a buffer zone around TTSA and around, Bigelow and some of these things. It should be fairly obvious to most people that utilize more than one brain cell that this type of thing is going on, and hey, it just could be bought and paid for, or people that are maybe gullible or having some issues at home or need their ego stroked can be easily manipulated to become these bulldogs for the organization. And it is funny because when you do get out there publicly, and I want to ask you a little bit about this, but I noticed that, I was, there are all sorts of people that approach you, and you get people like Dr. Eric Davis, or people, that will come out of the woodwork and, hey, I, like your work, and I'm going to, give you all this information, but you can't tell anybody. And, you get these people that insert themselves into your life. And as I have learned from all of this, you step back and you say, whoa, wait a minute. These people were trying to play to my ego. They were manipulating me. They were getting information, and they were trying to use me as a mouthpiece to promote their garbage. And I'm so grateful that I began to see through this, which I have, but I encourage other people to do that. But if you had that happen as well, I'm sure you have, because, we've both been through this together.
Right. Well, I've had, people, once they found out what I did, they would try to, get one up on me. A good example would be, a photo that was sent to me, with what looked like a brightly lit object out over a river. And, this is just one example, but it's a good, clear one to show what people do. So, this woman sent me the photo. She said, my husband and I, they were members of In the Field, for a very short time, for obvious reasons. They, took this photo out off of this bridge, and this brightly lit object was in the sky above the river, clear blue sky. So she sends me the photo, and I said, my first question was this photo taken inside of a vehicle? Which is the first rule of hunting any kind of anomalies with cameras. Do not take it through glass. A window, a windshield, doesn't matter. That's one of the rules. You can't do that. It causes anomalies. It causes all kinds of artifacts in the photo. It's just against the rules. So she sends me the photo. I take a look at it. She answers me back. She says, no, absolutely not. We were standing out on the bridge. We saw it, and I was able to snap one photograph, which is the first red flag. They only have one photograph. Most people, they see something weird, and they're snapping photos, So I took the photo, and I went back to the drawing board. And as I began to zoom in on the left-hand corner, I could see the reflection of the small lettering that's on a side mirror on a car. So you've got that small amount of words that's printed right there on your side view mirror. And I could see that reflecting back onto the glass. And so I blew that up. I sent it to her. I said, I think you took this through a window. And of course, I never heard from her again. They left the group and, that was it. But you've got people that will try that. They'll send me a video and they'll say, hey, look at this. I shot it the other night, and it's somebody fooling around with a flashlight, or it's somebody flying a drone, always trying to get one by. But those people really aren't in it for like a lot of the people that are on YouTube that are making tons of money off of it. It's a financial thing for them. These people are just in it because they're getting a thrill out of fooling me or fooling the public. I mean, they did, I'm sure Meyer never thought that it was going to turn into what it did from him building those models and photographing and filming them. But it turned into such a huge thing that Mulder had a poster of one of his photos on the show every week. Mm-hmm. He got it on TV. That's how famous he's gotten and for years and I think they still do. They sell calendars and shirts and, a financial thing. It's become a financial thing for him. There's people, as you know, as well, too, that shoot balloons. They shoot balloons all the time. They post them. And a lot of people believe that they're UFOs, but they're usually out of focus. The balloon's half deflated. It looks like it's, morphing metal, and it's just a half deflated Mylar balloon. And, people will post it and it'll get, 250,000 views.
I don't get it.
I mean, it is incredible, some of the stuff out there that people have actually viewed hundreds of thousands, some of them millions of times. And some of these people know what they're doing. Some of these people honestly capture it and don't know what it is.
It's amazing to see that.
Yeah, you just got to be careful. That's all. I mean, the UFO community is filled with charlatans, unfortunately, and they're either trying to take your money or they're trying to get a thrill out of fooling you. And, like I said, grab a camera, grab a telescope, grab something, go out there, start filming yourself, see what you can pick up. If you're really that, dedicated to it, get out there. I've laid back over the last few years, like I said, and had other things going on, so I didn't get out there and film. But with these people's donation to me, with this camera, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to see what I can capture. The camera is incredible. It's incredible to use it at night. It's just so much better than what I had, and I appreciate it so much from all of those people.
And you're such a kind person, and you deserve that. And you mentioned one of our favorite people on the planet, Mario, who has been who's the admin for your group now, and I want to just, of course, give him a shout out because he is so kind, and I hope someday that the three of us can go out there with our telescopes and your new camera, and we can look at the night sky and we can have conversations about all of our adventures and families and all of these things, and then go fishing. And that's just my I am going to put that out there because I want that to happen.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yes. The thing is, you know that for a span of a few years, I was a MUFON investigator, and I got out of that, and it was one of the reasons why I just wanted to go on my own, because I just didn't like the way it was run. It was unprofessional. It was very secretive. It was, it was ridiculous. And so I said to myself, I'm the firm belief that if you have this type of information and it's something this big and we can't figure it out, then it should be public. But anyways, back to being a MUFON investigator, I just, I don't know, I got away from it, and I look back on that and I think to myself, how many people join MUFON and then come to realize later on that they're that they hoard the data and they won't let you, I wanted to get copies of the actual cases that I investigated, and I couldn't even get that.
Really?
So this is something that I thought to myself, man, these people are I was so inspired to join them, and I think that I'm just going to try to see what I can do on my own, and so that began me down, sent me down a road that I never thought I would go down. But I think more people should do it on their own. They should go, even the people who are thousands of people that are claiming to be abducted. Well, I'm not going to say you're a liar, because I don't know if you're being abducted, but document it. Set up some cameras. Set up something. Try to document what's going on. If these things are happening to you and there's paranormal activity around you, then document it. Grab yourself a cheap motion sensor camera, maybe a couple of them, maybe a half a dozen of them. Set them up around. Try to document it. Don't go online and tell these crazy stories that this is happening to me.
Yes.
Go and document it. Try to get evidence. Try to show that this phenomena is there and it's doing something.
And keep it on the down low until you find somebody that you really, really trust.
Yes. And don't ever, give it away. If somebody comes along and says, listen, I'm going to take that for you and I'm going to examine it for you and I'll give you an answer. No, don't do that. Upload it for the world to see.
Yes. And that is so important. And I mean, I have watched, and specifically, like with regard to the Uinta Basin and people there who I've got incredible people and contacts and people that I've been working with for years and investigating cases in that area. But it is interesting to me to see some of the other people that are unfortunately like kind of moving into some of these Facebook groups, really questionable groups with, we don't know at the end of the day, like who the admins are. We don't know where the data is going, what narrative is being put forward and what the purposes are. And I just think, oh my gosh. And I try to warn people about some of that stuff because it's not necessarily a good thing, especially when you've got people, you mentioned MUFON, and I mentioned it earlier tonight, and I mentioned it on most shows because it's important for the public to know. But you've got organizations that don't care about selling personal information, and that personal information is going and falling into the hands of people that have no problem taking a person who has served the United States government, the military, sacrificed, put his life forward to protect our freedoms, and yet they're the people that are being experimented on and used as guinea pigs. These are the people that are involved in collecting your data, ladies and gentlemen, and that is a big problem. So be very careful of where you're putting forward your personal information.
Absolutely. So I'm going to turn the tables on you for a second.
Ooh.
And I'm going to ask you, Do you think at some point that your husband, Chris, will write a book?
You know what? We talk about that because we need to get information out there, and we're both, I think this whole year has been such a, it's been a whirlwind because as you know, when Chris started, when he first came on my show, he had worked for Bigelow and with Colm, for 10 years, and he had no idea. He drank the Kool-Aid, and I'll be the first one to admit it. He had no idea that these people were as despicable as they are, and now that we look back, and every night we sit there and we're putting together pieces of the puzzle, and we're talking to more people, and looking at the vast treasure trove of reports that I have from the Bass days and things like that, and things are coming together, but it's hard. It's taken a toll on both of us, but it's not been. It wouldn't for me. Like I said, and this is a long-winded answer to your question, but to watch not only Chris but his colleague Chris Bartell know that they were test subjects, and know that Bigelow and his crew would not go on the ranch because of cancer, people dying, and seeing the current owner Brandon Fugel go out there and talk about people and radiation levels and things. Those things are it's been really hard and on Chris and both Chris's. And so I hope and his plan is to write a book. I hope he does, because people are taking place. And so I don't understand, it's been so sad and so devastating. And then for me to sit back, for both Chris and myself to sit back and watch a new group of people getting manipulated and lied to is just like, okay. And I wanted to believe. I was like, yes, I want this to be an incredibly important thing. I was believing that the new ownership had the best intentions, and that we were going to see some action. And again, it's like, nope. So I don't, it's strange to me. I'm glad that you're saying that you need a lot of evidence. I heard on Dave Scott Spaced Out Radio the other night, the owner of the ranch was talking, and he said that on the first episode that he gave more evidence about the phenomenon than has ever been released before, if I can recall his words correctly. And I'm thinking, I guess I must have missed that one. Maybe it was the distraction with the bones in the basement, or the huge dome underground that is probably nothing, or maimed animals. I don't know. It kind of gets confusing there. But I mean, do you recall seeing evidence on the series that was like the mother lode?
No.
Okay.
They've picked up some anomalies out there. I mean, if there's radiation or microwaves on that property being caused by something that we don't know, then obviously it's dangerous to humans. If Bigelow is out there with, a bunch of equipment, and somebody must have known that was going on. Now, whether it was purposeful, let's say it's our technology that they're exposing these people to. Is it that, or is it technology that they've discovered that's not ours, but that they're exposing people to? Is there some kind of weird force field out there that they can't explain, or, a so-called portal? Whatever it is, they're exposing people to something that they shouldn't be exposed to. And, if you're that interested in it and trying to find out, and you've got all this money, one right after the other, Bigelow's got a ton of money, Fugo's got a ton of money, then hire some, high-level scientists to go in there and do some tests instead of like making a TV show out of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not excuse me, I'm not disputing the people who've come and gone from there and done tests, and but instead of, if that exists out there and that's going on, then instead of making a TV show out of it, then they should have people just descending on that place with the highest technology that we have to figure out what's going on there.
And that's exactly right. And that's the same thing with To the Stars. I mean, it's a media company. It's doing this and that, and yet, where are the people who are actually researching that? And if you remember back to the NIDS days, I mean, there were great promises of this group publishing things and being transparent about information, and that what we saw was virtually nothing. And so if there is something truly anomalous out there, then show us, put up live cams, share your research data that your brilliant, whatever he is, Eric Bard, is doing. And like you said, why aren't they bringing in other people? Why is it, for me, my big question is, why is it the same people that were in the Bigelow camp that are now being portrayed and and featured? If this is truly something new, then those people wouldn't even be involved. It's like, and I don't understand why the public doesn't make that connection. But
It's I mean, a lot of it comes down to just making money these days, really is what it is. I just don't adhere to it if it's something where, if they're trying to sell me something, there's a certain researcher out there, I've mentioned him before, and I won't mention his name, but people will know who I'm talking about, and he takes groups of people out to these locations to film anomalous objects, and he charges thousands of dollars to do this. And
wow.
I'm imploring people, don't pay him. Go and get your cameras and go out and do it yourself. It's free. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars. Just go out there, get a night vision camera, get a FLIR camera, get whatever you can. Go out there and see what you can get.
Absolutely.
It's like fishing. It really is like fishing. And some days you're going to get a bite. Some days you're going to pull one in. Many days you're not going to get anything.
But it's such a fun process. And let's, because we've got a few minutes for show close, and I know that, sometimes this topic there's some very big negatives, and I would not be doing neither of us would be doing the public any type of service if we didn't mention this continually, because we have to shine a light on this to help empower people to really look at what we need to look at and to steer away from all of this other nonsense. That's critical. So if I go down the, if you and I are shining a light on that, it's there's a reason for that, because it's important. But let's wrap up the show with talking about, like, if you were going to go out and do, like, maybe tonight I will get my stuff out and I'll drag Chris out there, and we can look up at the stars now that hopefully we can see them tonight. But what would you say, like, if I were going to put my camera on a tripod, what would be some settings for my camera, and what would be some cool things that I could try to do?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do for, like, for instance, I use two different cameras, one for night and one for day. So during the day, I use a Bell and Howell video cam, which has an infrared option. Okay, but it's not very powerful infrared wise. So what I do is I take an infrared camera lens that's used for my night vision camera, and I'll attach it over the top of the lens of the regular video cam with the infrared option. And so this allows me to, if I've got it pointed out during the day into a bright blue sky, it'll allow me to pick up things in the sky that I wouldn't regularly see with my eye. And then, of course, during the nighttime, you're using night vision. And I mean, the prices range from, $500 for night vision all the way up to, $10,000-$20,000 for a Gen 4 military grade, night vision camera. The thing is, I will let that camera run sometimes. I won't sit there and monitor, and not all the time. I'll monitor it occasionally, but I'll let the camera run and I'll let it shoot a bunch of footage. I'll shut it off. I'll go back out. I'll change the angle. I'll turn it back on again. And then I have to go through hours of footage to see if I've captured anything. And some of the things that I've captured were not visible to the eye at all until the footage was slowed down. But I'm sorry, what I wanted to say earlier, which I lost track of, was, and you reminded me, was one of my favorite parts of being a MUFON investigator was we would have get-togethers and sky watches on certain weekends. So we'd get together with, 10, 15 people from the area. People would bring sandwiches and soda and bring cameras and telescopes, and we just all get together and talk ufology. We would, set up lawn chairs and we'd just sit out there, and it was absolutely amazing. I had some of the best times doing that. And just talking about ufology and trying to capture, of course, equipment's much better these days, but you reminded me of that when you said setting up the telescope and everything. And I just love those times going out with people. And, there's not many people that are interested now.
And that is so much fun. And I mean, I will say that as much as I've said what I always talk about MUFON, and I think my feelings are pretty clear. But I've met so many incredible people, and it is a lot of fun just to have a barbecue and to get your night vision stuff and to go hang out and talk and look at the the beauty around us, and those are really important moments in life. And so for that, I'm grateful that I've had those experiences, and I'm really happy to hear that you're going to get out there tonight and start doing that again, because I would love to get
on fishing.
Yeah, baby. I mean, I'm going to too, because I need that, and I think that we all need to do that and get away from the computer and get away from all of the negativity in the world and things that are happening, and just remember some of the cool things that take place. And this is, all of us are listening to this show because we understand there's something beautiful. There's something that we'll probably never have the opportunity to truly understand. But it's that looking for it, learning about all of these wonderful things enriches your life. And I don't for 1 second regret ever going down this path, as hard as it's been. I know on both of us, but the wonderful things that I've had and that you've had, that you were just mentioning, these precious times. I mean, that really is what sustains us and keeps us going and keeps us committed to finding the truth for the public, for us, for the public, for the greater good of the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to thank, you, of course, and everybody in chat. There's a lot of good people out there, and I I have always had a lot of respect for this show because, you know, you keep it honest and you're grounded, and, you know, that's something I have a lot of respect for because in ufology, that's quite rare, as you know.
Thank you. That means the world to me to hear that from someone like you, because you're a gem, and you and Mario, you know, and the people in your group. I mean, that's really, really special people, and I feel very blessed to have all of you as my friends and colleagues. And I look forward to sharing what you found tonight, and it would be really cool if somehow I need to talk to you about this, but maybe get some things, your videos or some ideas or different things on my website so I can start sharing that, and then empowering people like you do to get out there and to do their own research and to look up and pay attention and things. And that would be very, very cool. So let's strategize about that.
Excellent. Sounds good to me.
I love it. And thank you so much. And I want to, you know, Scott Browne, one of my favorite people, like I was saying, just a brilliant, kind, talented man. And thank you so much, Scott, for the beautiful graphics that you provide for the show. Thank you very much. I love them. Every week you make my hair look so good. I wish it's like, dang, if I look like that in person, but thank you so much. And I want to thank all of you, you know, for being here, Jeff and Doug. I'm so glad to see you. There's so many wonderful people. We all are here for the right reasons. And I really believe that we are creating a cohesive and very knowledgeable, dedicated group of people that are able to see through things, and we will stick by each other. And I appreciate all of your support. And I want to just say again, look at UFO Classified tonight. I've been for years doing research, and like I said, looking at specific people, looking at their involvement in the subject, looking at where funds are going, looking at who's involved with who, and putting together a very, very interesting puzzle. And interestingly enough, this I just got one of the last pieces of this puzzle that should kind of lay things out for us. But again, you know, make sure you do your homework. You understand that anything that you're getting from the Bigelow narrative is not factual. It's a smokescreen. And that there are people that are inserted into the community that hide under fake names and really bad pictures that they use to promote themselves, whether fake identities, whatever, and that they are funneling, gathering data, and it's all going to the same place. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting ride, but like I said, there will be some trolls coming after me and the usual suspects. So, you know, that'll be a good time. But the truth needs to come out, and it certainly shall. So anyway, thank you, Scott, very, very much. Thank you, all of my friends, for being here, and I look forward to being here next Friday. I've got some great guests coming up and more information that we'll be getting out with regard to the Ruffle files. I appreciate your support. It does look like chat continues after I stop the show, so you guys have fun. I'm learning these things about Spreaker, but, you know, be safe. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you all. I love you guys, and I will catch you next week.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you so much.